Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to all the viewers who are going to see today as well as in the future. We are back with another reading of the Western Philosophy 101 book, Sophie's World. So recently we read the philosophies of Locke, Descartes, Hume, and today we are going to read or we are going to try to understand the philosophy of Berkeley. So today we have SK Garu as well as Siksha Garu who have joined us. I'm also going to give the link in case anybody wants to join for the reading. Again, as you know, this is an English and reading channel as well as discussion also will be predominantly in English because we are trying to understand the Western philosophy. So just want to keep it in the language of the lingua franca of the West. So welcome Sikshadrin Garu, welcome SK Garu.
Hello, Vishwagaru. Hello, Siksha.
Hello, sir. Thank you, sir. Hello, SK Garu.
So whoever wants to start can go ahead.
Okay, I'll start and I'll take Sophie and you're Alberto. Siksha.
Okay, SK Garu. Right.
Okay. Berkeley. Like a giddy planet round a burning sun. Alberto walked over to the window facing the town. Sophie followed him. While they stood looking out at the old houses, a small plane flew in over the rooftops. Fixed to its tail was a long banner, which Sophie guessed would be advertising some product or local event, a rock concert perhaps. But as it approached and turned, she saw quite a different message. Happy birthday, Hilda.
Gate crasher was Alberto's only comment.
Heavy black clouds from the hills to the south were now beginning to gather over the town. The little plane disappeared into the grayness.
I'm afraid there's going to be a storm, said Alberto.
So I'll take the bus home.
I only hope the major isn't behind this. This too.
He's not God Almighty, is he?
Alberto did not reply. He walked across the room and sat down again by the coffee table. We have to talk about Berkeley, he said after a while.
Sophie had already resumed her place. She caught herself biting her nails.
George Berkeley was an Irish bishop who lived from 1685 to 1753. Alberto began. There was a long silence.
Berkeley
Berkeley
was
was
an
an,
Irish bishop?
but he was a philosopher as well.
Oh, yes?
Yes, he felt that current philosophies and science were a threat to the Christian way of life. That the all-pervading materialism, not least, represented a threat to the Christian faith in God as creator and preserver of all nature.
He did?
And yet, Berkeley was the most consistent of the empiricists.
He believed we cannot know any more of the world than we can perceive through the senses?
More than that, Berkeley claimed that worldly things are indeed as we perceive them, but they are not things.
You will have to explain that.
You remember that Locke pointed out that we cannot make statements about the secondary qualities of things. We cannot say an apple is green and sour. We can only say we perceive it as being so. But Locke also said that primary qualities like density, gravity, and weight really do belong to the external reality around us. External reality has, in fact, a material substance.
I remember that, and I think Locke's division of things was important.
Yes, Sophie, if only that were all.
Go on.
Locke believed, just like Descartes and Spinoza, that the material world is a reality.
Yes?
This is just what Berkeley questioned, and he did so by the logic of empiricism. He said the only things that exist are those we perceive, but we do not perceive material or matter. We do not perceive things as tangible objects. To assume that what we perceive has its own underlying substance is jumping to conclusions. We have absolutely no experience on which to base such a claim.
How stupid. Look. Sophie thumped her fist hard on the table. Ouch, she said. Doesn't that prove that this table is really a table both of material and matter?
How did you feel it?
I felt something hard.
You had a sensation of something hard, but you didn't feel the actual matter in the table. In the same way, you can dream you are hitting something hard, but there isn't there isn't anything hard in a dream, is there?
No, not in a dream.
A person can also be hypnotized into feeling things like warmth and cold, a caress or a punch.
But if the table wasn't really hard, why did I feel it?
Berkeley believed in a spirit. He thought all our ideas have a cause beyond our consciousness, but that this cause is not of a material nature. It is spiritual.
Sophie started biting her nails again.
Alberto continued, according to Berkeley, my own soul can be the cause of my own ideas, just as when I dream, but only another will or spirit can be the cause of the ideas that make up the corporeal world. Everything is due to that spirit which is the cause of everything in everything, and which all things consist in, he said.
What spirit was he talking about?
Berkeley was, of course, thinking of God. He said that we can moreover claim that the existence of God is far more clearly perceived than the existence of man.
Is it not even certain that we exist?
Yes and no. Everything we see and feel is an effect of God's power, said Berkeley. For God is intimately present in our consciousness, causing to exist for us the profusion of ideas and perceptions that we are constantly subject to. The whole world around us and our whole life exist in God. He is the one cause of everything that exists. We exist only in the mind of God.
I'm amazed, to put it mildly.
So, to be or not to be is not the whole question. The question is also who we are. Are we really human beings of flesh and blood? Does our world consist of real things? Or are we encircled by the mind?
Sophie continued to bite her nails.
Alberto went on. Material reality was not the only thing Berkeley was questioning. He was also questioning whether time and space had any absolute or independent existence. Our own perception of time and space can also be merely figments of the mind. A week or two for us need not be a week or two for God.
You said that for Berkeley, the spirit that everything exists in is the Christian God.
Yes, I suppose I did, but
Us?
for us, For you and me, this will or spirit that is the cause of everything in everything could be Hilda's father.
Sophie's eyes opened wide with incredulity. Yet, at the same time, a realization began to dawn on her. Is that what you think?
I cannot see any other possibility. That is perhaps the only feasible explanation for everything that has happened to us. All those postcards and signs that have turned up here and there, Hermes beginning to talk, my own involuntary slips of the tongue.
I.
Imagining my calling you Sophie, Hilda, I knew all the time that your name wasn't Sophie.
What are you saying? Now you are definitely confused.
Yes, my mind is going round and round, my child, like a giddy planet around a burning sun.
And that son is Hilda's father?
You could say so.
Are you saying he's been a kind of god for us?
To be perfectly candid, yes, he should be ashamed of himself.
What about Hilda herself?
She is an angel, Sophie.
An angel?
Hilda is the one this spirit turns to.
Are you saying that Albert Nag tells Hilda about us?
Or writes about us, for we cannot perceive the matter itself that our reality is made of. That much we have learned. We cannot know whether our external reality is made of sound waves or of paper and writing. According to Berkeley, all we can know is that we are spirit.
And Hilda is an angel.
Hilda is an angel, yes. Let that be the last word. Happy birthday, Hilda.
Suddenly, the room was filled with a bluish light. Oh, bluish light. A few seconds later, they heard the crash of thunder and the whole house shook. I have to go, said Sophie. She got up and ran to the front door. As she let herself out, Hermes woke up from his nap in the hallway. She thought she heard him say, "See you later, Hilda." Sophie rushed down the stairs and ran out into the street. It was deserted. And now the rain came down in torrents. One or two cars were plowing through the downpour, but there were no buses in sight. Sophie ran across and Main Square and on through the town. As she ran, one thought kept going round and round in her mind. Tomorrow is my birthday. Isn't it extra bitter to realize that life is only a dream on the day before your 15th birthday? It's like dreaming you won a million and then just as you're getting the money, you wake up. Sophie ran across the squelching playing field. Minutes later, she saw someone come running toward her. It was her mother. The sky was pierced again and again by angry darts of lightning. When they reached each other, Sophie's mother put her arm around her. So, mother says, "What's happening to us, little one?" Then Sophie says, "I don't know." Sophie sobbed. "It's like a bad dream." And with this ends Berkeley. Vishwagaru?
Sorry, I was on mute. So Davji has also joined us in the panel. Welcome, Davji. And maybe we should go to the next chapter.
Hello, Dauji.
Okay, sir. Hello, Davji.
Berkeley with a J. And how
So,
long is this?
Hello everyone.
How are you
hello.
doing?
Hello.
I'm good. I'm driving. I will talk in 10 minutes
Yeah, no
after that.
problem.
All
Take your
right.
time.
All right.
Yeah, drive safely. So yeah, let's go ahead and do the next chapter also. So you can
Okay.
tell
That's
what's going on
very bad.
here, right? So why is a Christian priest interested in philosophy, right? Because at some point the empiricists are the people who want hard evidence. are sort of clashing with this whole idea of the spirit and um, some of the non-materialistic metaphysical things, right? So they started slowly getting into it as well because they had positions of power, you know. So anyway, so let's go to the Berkeley with the J, Jerkly, Bjerkely. That is the next subchapter.
So pronunciation is jerkly.
Yeah, Jerkly is probably the right pronunciation.
Okay.
Or I think the J is silent in the Nordic countries. So you have Bjorn with the J, right? So you can still call it Berkeley, but here it is spelt with a J.
Mm. Okay.
Or it's Bjerkely. Bjerkely.
Berkeley.
Mm. Not
Berkeley.
Berkeley, but Bjerkely. Mm. Because J
Okay.
is pronounced as a Y.
Berkeley. Okay. Let's get started then. Berkeley. An old magic mirror great grandmother had bought from a gypsy woman. Hilda Moller-Nag awoke in the attic room in the old captain's house outside Lillsand. She glanced at the clock. It was only 6 o'clock, but it was already light. Broad rays of morning sun lit up the room. She got out of bed and went to the window. On the way, she stopped by the desk and tore a page off her calendar. Thursday, June 14th, 1990. She crumpled the page up and threw it in her wastebasket. Friday, June 15th, 1990, said the calendar now, shining at her. Way back in January, she had written 15th birthday on this page. She felt it was extra special to be 15 on the 15th. It would never happen again. 15? Wasn't this the first day of her adult life? She couldn't just go back to bed. Furthermore, it was the last day of school before the summer vacation. The students just had to appear in church at 1 o'clock. And what was more, in a week, Dad would be home from Lebanon. He had promised to be home for Midsummer Eve. Hilda stood by the window and looked out over the garden, down toward the dock behind the little red boathouse. The motorboat had not yet been brought out for the summer, but the old rowboat was tied up to the dock. She must remember to bail the water out of it after last night's heavy downpour. As she was looking out over the little bay, she remembered the time when, as a little girl of 6, she had climbed up into the rowboat and rowed out into the bay alone. She had fallen overboard, and it was all she could do to struggle ashore. Drenched to the skin, she had pushed her way through the thicket hedge. As she stood in the garden looking up at the house, her mother had come running toward her. The boat and both oars were left afloat in the bay. She still dreamed about the boat sometimes, drifting on its own, abandoned. It had been an embarrassing experience. The garden was neither especially luxuriant nor particularly well kept, but it was large and it was Hilda's. A weather beaten apple tree and a few practically barren fruit bushes had just about survived the severe winter storms. The old glider stood on the lawn between granite rocks and thicket. It looked so forlorn, forlorn in the sharp morning light. Even more so because the cushions had been taken in. Mom had probably hurried out late last night and rescued them from the rain. There were birch trees, jorketreer, okay,
Bjorketreer.
bjorketreer, all around the large garden, sheltering it partly, at least from the worst squalls. It was because of those trees that the house had been renamed Berkeley, over 100 years ago. Oh, Bjorketreer. So that's why Berkeley. Okay, Hilda's great grandfather had built the house some years before the turn of the century. He had been a captain on one of the last tall sailing ships. There were a lot of people who continued to call it the captain's house. That morning, the garden still showed signs of heavy rain that had suddenly started late last evening. Hilda had been awakened several times by bursts of thunder, but today there was not a cloud in the sky. Everything is so fresh after a summer storm like that. It had been hot and dry for several weeks, and the tips of the leaves on the birch trees had started to turn yellow. Now it was as if the whole world had been newly washed. It seemed as if even her childhood had been washed away with the storm. Indeed, there is pain when spring buds burst. Wasn't there a Swedish poet who had said something like that? Or was she Finnish? Hilda stood in front of the heavy brass mirror hanging on the wall above grandmother's old dresser. Was she pretty? She wasn't ugly anyway. Maybe she was kind of in between. She had long, fair hair. Hilda had always wished her hair could be either a bit fairer or a bit darker. This in between color was so mousy. On the positive side, there were these soft curls. Lots of her friends struggled to get their hair to curl just a little bit, but Hilda's hair had always been naturally curly. Another positive feature, she thought, were her deep green eyes. Are they really green? Her aunts and uncles used to say as they bent over to look at her. Hilda considered whether the image she was studying was that of a girl or that of a young woman. She decided it was neither. The body might be quite womanly, but the face reminded her of an unripe apple. There was something about this old mirror that always made Hilda think of her father. It had once hung down in the studio. The studio over the boathouse was her father's combined library, writer's workshop, and retreat. Albert, as Hilda called him when he was home, had always wanted to write something significant. Once he had tried to write a novel, but he never finished it. From time to time, he had had a few poems and sketches of the archipelago, archipelago published in a national journal. Hilda was so proud every time she saw his name in print, Albert Nag. It meant something in Lilsand anyway. Her great grandfather's name had also been Albert. The mirror. Many years ago, her father had joked about not being able to wink at your own reflection with both eyes at the same time, except in this brass mirror. It was an exception because it was an old magic mirror great grandmother had bought from a gypsy woman just after her wedding. Hilda had tried for ages, but it was just as hard to wink at yourself with both eyes as to run away from your own shadow. In the end, she had been given the old family heirloom to keep. Through the years, she had tried from time to time to master the impossible art. Not surprisingly, she was pensive today. And not unnaturally, she was preoccupied with herself, 15 years old. She happened to glance at her beside table. Sorry. She happened to glance at her bedside table. There was a large package there. It had pretty blue wrapping and was tied with a red silk ribbon. It must be a birthday present. Could this be the present? The great big present from Dad that had been so very secret? He had dropped so many cryptic hints in his cards from Lebanon, but he had imposed a severe censorship on himself. The present was something that grew bigger and bigger, he had written. Then he had said something about a girl she was soon to meet, and that he had sent copies of all his cards to her. Hilda had tried to pump her mother for clues, but she had no idea what he meant either. The oddest hint had been that the present could perhaps be shared with other people. He wasn't working for the UN for nothing. If her father had one bee in his bonnet and he had plenty, it was that the UN ought to be a kind of world government. May the UN one day really be able to unite the whole of humanity, he had written on one of his cards. Was she allowed to open the package before her mother came up to her room singing, "Happy birthday to you," with a pastry and a Norwegian flag? Surely that was why it had been put there. She walked quietly across the room and picked up the package. It was heavy. She found the tag: To Hilda on her 15th birthday from Dad. She sat on the bed and carefully untied the red silk ribbon. Then she undid the blue paper. It was a large ring binder. Was this her present? Was this the 15th birthday present that there had been so much fuss about? The present that grew bigger and bigger and could be shared with other people? A quick glance showed that the ring binder was rilled with typewritten pages. Hilda recognized them as being from her father's typewriter, the one he had taken with him to Lebanon. Had he written a whole book for her? On the first page, in large handwritten letters, was the title: Sophie's World. Farther down the page, there were two typewritten lines of poetry. True enlightenment is to man like sunlight to the soil. NFS Grundtvig. Hilda turned to the next page, to the beginning of the first chapter. It was entitled The Garden of Eden. She got into bed, sat up comfortably, resting the ring binder against her knees, and began to read. Sophie Amundsen was on her way home from school. She had walked the first part of the way with Joanna. They had been discussing robots. Joanna thought the human brain was like an advanced computer. Sophie was not certain she agreed. Surely a person was more than a piece of hardware? Hilda read on, obviously, of all else, even forgetting that it was her birthday. From time to time, a brief thought crept in between the lines as she read. Had Dad written a book? Had he finally begun on the significant novel and completed it in Lebanon? He had often complained that time hung heavily on one's hands in that part of the world. Sophie's father was far from home too. She was probably the girl Hilda would be getting to know. So she continues reading. Only by conjuring up an intense feeling of one day being dead could she
Skagar, I
appreciate.
will take this. I'll take
Okay.
this Sunday. Only by conjuring up an intense feeling of one day being dead could she appreciate how terribly good life was. How terribly good life was. Where does the word come from? At some point, something must have come from nothing. But was that possible? Wasn't that just as impossible as the idea that the world had always existed?
Hilda read on and on. With surprise, she read about Sophie Amundsen receiving a postcard from Lebanon. Lebanon. Hilda Molenag, care of Sophie Amundsen, 3 Clover Close.
Dear Hilda, happy 15th birthday. As I am sure you'll understand, I want to give you a present that will help you grow. Forgive me for sending the card, care of Sophie. It was the easiest way. Love from Dad.
The Joker? Hilda knew her father had always been a sly one, but today he had really taken her by surprise. Instead of tying the card on the package, he had written it into the book. But poor Sophie, she must have been totally confused.
Why would a father send a birthday card to Sophie's address when it was quite obviously intended to go somewhere else? What kind of a father would cheat his own daughter of a birthday card by purposely sending it astray? How could it be the easiest way? And above all, how was she supposed to trace this Hilda person?
No, how could she? Hilda turned a couple of pages and began to read the second chapter. Chapter name: The Top Hat. She soon came to the long letter which a mysterious person had written to Sophie.
Being interested in why we are here is not a casual interest like collecting stamps. People who ask such questions are taking part in a debate that has gone on as long as man has lived on this planet.
Sophie was completely exhausted. So was Hilda. Not only had Dad written a book for her 15th birthday, he had written a strange and wonderful book.
To summarize briefly, a white rabbit is pulled out of a top hat. Because it is an extremely large rabbit, the trick takes many billions of years. All mortals are born at the very tip of the rabbit's fine hairs, where they are in a position to wonder at the impossibility of the trick. But as they grow older, they work themselves even deeper into the fur, and there they stay.
Sophie was not the only one who felt she had been on the point of finding herself a comfortable place deep down in the rabbit's fur. Today was Hilda's 15th birthday, and she had the feeling it was time to decide which way she would choose to crawl. She read about the Greek natural philosophers. Hilda knew that her father was interested in philosophy. He had written an article in the newspaper proposing that philosophy should be a regular school subject. It was called "Why Should Philosophy Be Part of the School Curriculum?" He had even raised the issue at a PTA meeting in Hilda's class. Hilda had found it acutely embarrassing. She looked at the clock. It was 7:30. It would probably be half an hour before her mother came up with the breakfast tray. Thank goodness, because right now she was engrossed in Sophie and all the philosophical questions. She read the chapter called Democritus. First of all, Sophie got a question to think about. Why is Lego the most ingenious toy in the world? Then she found a large brown envelope in the mailbox.
Democritus agreed with his predecessors that transformations in nature could not be due to the fact that anything actually changed. He therefore assumed that everything was built up of tiny invisible blocks, each of which was eternal and immutable. Democritus called these smallest units atoms.
Hilda was indignant when Sophie found the red silk scarf under her bed. So that was where it was. But how could a scarf just disappear into a story? It had to be someplace. The chapter on Socrates began with Sophie reading something about the Norwegian UN battalion in Lebanon in the newspaper. Typical dad. He was so concerned that people in Norway were not interested enough in the UN forces. Peacekeeping task. If nobody else was, then Sophie would have to be. In that way, he could write it into his story and get some sort of attention from the media. She had to smile as she read the PPS in the philosophy teacher's letter to Sophie.
If you should come across a red silk scarf anywhere, please take care of it. Sometimes personal property gets mixed up, especially at school and places like that, and this is a philosophy school.
Hilda heard her mother's footsteps on the stairs. Before she knocked on the door, Hilda had begun to read about Sophie's discovery of the video of Athens in her secret den.
Happy birthday, her mother had begun to sing halfway up the stairs.
"Come in," said Hilda, in the middle of the passage where the philosophy teacher was talking directly to Sophie from the Acropolis. He looked almost exactly like Hilda's father, with a black, well trimmed beard and a blue beret.
Happy birthday, Hilda.
Uh-uh.
Hilda,
Just put it there.
aren't you going to?
You can see I'm reading.
Imagine you're 15.
Have you ever been to Athens, Mom?
No. Why do you ask?
It's so amazing that those old temples are still standing. They're actually 2,500 years old. The biggest one is called the Virgin's Place, by the way.
Have you opened your present from Dad?
What present?
You must look up now, Hilda. You're in a complete daze.
Hilda let the large ring binder slide down onto her lap. Her mother stood leaning over the bed with the tray. On it were lighted candles, buttered rolls with shrimp salad, and a soda. There was also a small package. Her mother stood awkwardly holding the tray with both hands with a flag under one arm. Oh, thanks a lot, Mom. It's sweet of you, but I'm really busy.
You don't have to go to school till 1 o'clock.
Not until now did Hilda remember where she was, and her mother put the tray down on the bedside table. Sorry, Mom. I was completely absorbed in this.
What is it he has written, Hilda? I've been just as mystified as you. It's been impossible to get a sensible out of him for months.
For some reason, Hilda felt embarrassed. Oh, it's just a story.
A story?
Yes, a story and a history of philosophy or something like that.
Aren't you going to open the package from me?
Hilda didn't want to be unfair, so she opened her mother's present right away. It was a gold bracelet. It's lovely, Mom. Thank you very much. Hilda got out of bed and gave her mother a hug. They sat talking for a while. Then Hilda said, I have to get back to the book, Mom. Right now, he's standing on the top of Acropolis.
Who is?
I have no idea. Neither has Sophie. That's the whole point.
Well, I have to get to work. Don't forget to eat something. Your dress is on a hanger downstairs.
Finally, her mother disappeared down the stairs. So did Sophie's philosophy teacher. He walked down the steps from the Acropolis and stood on the Areopagus rock before appearing a little later in the old square of Athens. Hilda shivered when the old buildings suddenly rose from the ruins. One of her father's pet ideas had been to let all the United Nations countries collaborate in reconstructing an exact copy of the Athenian square. It would be the forum for philosophical discussion and also for disarmament talks. Disarmament talks. He felt that a giant project like that would forge world unity. We have, after all, succeeded in building oil rigs and moon rockets. Then she read about Plato. The soul yearns to fly home on the wings of love to the world of ideas. It longs to be freed from the chains of the body. Sophie had crawled through the hedge and followed Hermes, but the dog had escaped her. After having read about Plato, she had gone farther into the woods and come upon the red cabin by the little lake. Inside hung a painting of Berkeley. From the description, it was clearly meant to be Hilda's Berkeley. But there was also a portrait of a man named Berkeley. How odd. Hilda laid the heavy ring binder aside on the bed and went over to her bookshelf and looked him up in the 3 volume encyclopedia she had been given on her 14th birthday. Here he was, Berkeley. Berkeley
Shall
George.
I shall I take it, Esquero, from
Ah,
here?
sure, sure.
Berkeley George, 1685 to 1753. Engineering, philosophy, Bishop of Cloyne. Denied existence of a material world beyond the human mind. Our sense perceptions proceed from God. Main work,
Sir, that is not
Socrates.
engineering. That is English
okay, sir.
philosophy. There was no
Okay,
engineering.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry.
No,
Berkeley,
it's okay.
George.
No worries.
English philosophy, Bishop of Cloyne. Okay. So his main work was a treatise
English philosophers.
concern
English philosopher.
philosopher. Okay. His main work was a treatise concerning the principles of human knowledge, written in 1710. Yes, it was definitely odd. Hilda stood thinking for a few seconds before going back to bed and the ring binder. In one way, it was her father who had hung the two pictures on the wall. Could there be any connection other than the similarity of names? Berkeley was a philosopher who denied the existence of a material world beyond the human mind. That was certainly very strange, one had to admit, but it was not easy to disapprove such claims either. As regards Sophie, it fitted very well. After all, Hilda's father was responsible for her sense perceptions. Well, she would know more if she read on. Hilda looked up from the ring binder and smiled when she got to the point where Sophie discovers the reflection of a girl who winks with both eyes. The other girl had winked at Sophie as if to say, I can see you, Sophie. I'm here on the other side. Sophie finds the green wallet in the cabin as well, with the money and everything. How could it have made its way there? Absurd. For a second or two, Hilda had really believed that Sophie had found it. But then she tried to imagine how the whole thing must appear to Sophie. It must all seem quite inscrutable and uncanny. For the first time, Hilda felt a strong desire to meet Sophie face to face. She felt like telling her the real truth about the whole business. But now, Sophie had to get out of the cabin before she was caught red handed. The boat was adrift on the lake, of course. Her father couldn't resist reminding her of the old story, could he? Hilda gulped a mouthful of soda and took a bite of her roll while she read the letter about the meticulous Aristotle who had criticized Plato's theories.
Aristotle
Aristotle,
pointed out.
carry on, Iskayor.
Okay. Yeah. Aristotle pointed out that nothing exists in consciousness that has not first been experienced by the senses. Plato would have said that there is nothing in the natural world that has not first existed in the world of ideas. Aristotle held that Plato was thus doubling the number of things.
Hilda had not known that it was Aristotle who had invented the game of animal, vegetable, or mineral.
Aristotle wanted to do a thorough clearing up in nature's room. He tried to show that everything in nature belongs to different categories and subcategories.
When she read about Aristotle's view of women, she was both irritated and disappointed. Imagine being such a brilliant philosopher and yet such a crass idiot. Aristotle had inspired Sophie to clean up her own room, and there, together with all the other stuff, she found the white stocking which had disappeared from Hilda's closet a month ago. Sophie put all the pages she had gotten from Alberto into a ring binder. There were in all over 50 pages. For her own part, Hilda had gotten up to page 124, but then she also had Sophie's story on top of all the correspondence from Alberto Knox. The next chapter was called Hellenism. First of all, Sophie finds a postcard with a picture of a UN jeep. It is stamped UN Battalion June 15. Another of these cards to Hilda that her father had put into the story instead of sending by mail.
Dear Hilda, I assume you're still celebrating your 15th birthday. Or is this the morning after? Anyway, it makes no difference to your present. In a sense, that will last a lifetime. But I would like to wish you a happy birthday one more time. Perhaps you understand now why I send the cards to Sophie. I'm sure she'll pass them on to you. P.S. Mom said you had lost your wallet. I hereby promise to reimburse you the 150 crowns. You'll probably be able to get another school ID before they close for the summer vacation. Love from Dad.
Not bad. That made her 150 crowns richer. He probably thought a homemade present alone wasn't enough. So it appeared that June 15 was Sophie's birthday too. But Sophie's calendar had only gotten as far as the middle of May. That must have been when her father had written this chapter. And he had postulated and he had post dated the birthday card to Hilda. But poor Sophie, running down to the supermarket to meet Joanna.
Who was Hilda? How could her father, as good as take it for granted that Sophie would find her? In any case, it was senseless of him to send Sophie the cards instead of sending them directly to his daughter.
Hilda, like Sophie, was elevated to the celestial spheres as she read about Plotinus.
I believe there is something of the divine mystery in everything that exists. We can see it sparkle in a sunflower or a poppy. We sense more of the unfathomable mystery in a butterfly that flutters from a twig or in a goldfish swimming in a ball. But we are closest to God in our own soul. Only there Only there can we become one with the greatest mystery of life. In truth, at very rare moments, we can experience that we ourselves are that divine mystery.
This was the most giddying passage Hilda had read up to now, but it was nevertheless the simplest. Everything is one, and this one is a divine mystery that everyone shares. This was not really something you needed to believe. It is so, thought Hilda. So so everyone can read what they like into the word divine. She turned quickly to the next chapter. Sophie and Joanna go camping the night before the national holiday on May 17th. They make their way to the major's cabin. Hilda had not read many pages before she flung the bedclothes angrily aside, got up, and began to walk up and down, clutching the ring binder in her hands. This was just about the most impudent trick she had ever heard of. In that little hut in the woods, her father lets these two girls find copies of all the cards he had sent Hilda in the first 2 weeks of May, and the copies were real enough. Hilda had read the very same words over and over. She recognized every single word.
Mm. Dear Hilda, I'm now so bursting with all these secrets for your birthday that I have to stop myself several times a day from calling home and blowing the whole thing. It is something that simply grows and grows. And as you know, when a thing gets bigger and bigger, it's more difficult to keep it to yourself.
Sophie gets a new lesson from Alberto. It's all about Jews and Greeks and the two great cultures. Hilda liked getting this wide bird's eye view of history. She had never learned anything like it at school. They only gave you details and more details. She now saw Jesus and Christianity in a completely new light. She liked the quote from Goethe: "He who cannot He who cannot draw on 3,000 years is living from hand to mouth. The next chapter began with a piece of card which sticks to Sophie's kitchen window. It is a new birthday card for Hilda, of course.
Dear Hilda, I don't know whether it will still be your birthday when you read this card. I hope so, in a way. Or at least that not too many days have gone by. A week or two for Sophie doesn't have to mean just as long for us. I shall be coming home for Midsummer Eve, so we can sit together for hours in the glider, looking out over the sea, Hilda. We have so much to talk about.
Then Alberto calls Sophie, and this is the first time she hears his voice.
You make it sound like a war. I would rather call it a battle of wills. We have to attract Hilda's attention and get her over on our side before her father comes home from Lil Sand.
And then Sophie meets Alberto Knox disguised as a medieval monk in the 12th century stone church. Oh no, the church. Hilda looked at the time. 1:15. She had forgotten all about the time. Maybe it wouldn't matter so much that she cut school on her birthday, but it did mean that her classmates wouldn't be celebrating with her. Oh well, she had always had plenty of well-wishers. Soon she found herself receiving a long sermon. Alberto had no problem slipping into the role of a medieval priest. When she read about how Sophia had appeared to Hildegard in visions, she turned once again to her encyclopedia. But this time, she found nothing about either of them. Wasn't that typical? As soon as it was a question of women or something to do with women, the encyclopedia was about as informative as a moon crater. Was the whole work censored by the Society for the Protection of Men? Hildegard of Bingen was a preacher, a writer, a doctor, a botanist, and a biologist. She was perhaps an example of the fact that women were often more practical, more scientific even in the Middle Ages. But there was not a single word about her in the encyclopedia. How scandalous! Hilda had never heard that God had a female side or a mother nature. Her name was Sophia, apparently, but she was apparently not worth printer's ink either. The nearest she could find in the encyclopedia was an entry about the Santa Sophia Church in Constantinople, which is now Istanbul, named Hagia Sophia, which means sacred wisdom. But there was nothing about it being female. That was censorship, wasn't it? Otherwise, it was true enough that Sophie had revealed herself to Hilda. She was picturing the girl with the straight hair all the time. When Sophie gets home after spending most of the morning in St. Mary's Church, she stands in front of the brass mirror she took home from the cabin in the woods.
She studied the sharp contours of her own pale face, framed by that impossible hair, which defied any style but nature's own. But beyond that face was the apparition of another girl. Suddenly, the other girl began to wink frantically with both eyes, as if to signal that she was really in there on the other side. The apparition lasted only a few seconds, then she was gone.
How many times had Hilda stood in front of the mirror like that, as if she was searching for someone else behind the glass? But how could her father have known that? Wasn't it also a dark wasn't it also a dark-haired woman she had she had been searching for? Great-grandmother had brought it from a gypsy woman, hadn't she? Hilda felt her hands shaking as they held the book. She had the feeling that Sophie really existed somewhere on the other side. Now Sophie is dreaming about Hilda and Björkli. Hilda can neither see nor hear her, but then Sophie finds Hilda's gold crucifix on the dock, and the crucifix with Hilda's initials and everything is in Sophie's bed when she wakes after her dream. Hilda forced uh, herself to think hard. Surely she hadn't lost her crucifix as well. She went to her dresser and took out her jewelry case. The crucifix, which she had received as a christening gift from her grandmother, was not there. So she really had lost it? All right. But how had her father known it when she didn't even know it herself? And another thing, Sophie had apparently dreamed that Hilda's father came home from Lebanon. But there was still a week to go before that happened. Was Sophie's dreams prophetic? Did her father mean that when he came home, Sophie would somehow be there? He had written that she would get a new friend. In a momentary vision of absolute clarity, Hilda knew that Sophie was more than just paper and ink. She really existed.
Wonderful.
Hello,
So the
sir.
story,
Shravan, sir.
yeah. Hello, Sherekan Gaarder. Welcome to the panel. So this is a very
Hello,
interesting chapter.
hello.
Hello, sir.
Sir, వినిపిస్తుందా?
Yes, we can hear you, sir,
Okay, perfect.
loud and clear. So the story has taken a slightly different turn because now there is Sophie, there is Hilda, and there's a bit of each. It's almost like there is a mirror. There is one side of the mirror that is reality, but uh, there is another side of the mirror that thinks this is reality and that is an image, right? So the mirror images are thinking that they are reality, and that is the other side is the
Apparition.
illusion or the appearance, basically, right? And also, this is almost like they are also giving us some kind of review of the various philosophies that were introduced, right? Starting with Socrates, Plato, Democritus, all these. So, Daoji, go ahead, sir.
I need 5 minutes.
Okay. So, yeah. So that's what today's chapter is, and I think probably somebody must have already done it. We need to create like a table with the names of these folks and then what their core idea is that they proposed, right? Because remember, we had this white paper that we had, or even a published paper that talked about the various Vedanta schools, right? Like a table with all the who proposed what is the core aspect of their proposal and things like that. So we need to do the same for this, just to keep track of the ideas, right?
Sir, I think we should talk a bit about Berkeley's philosophy as well, sir.
Berkeley's philosophy in terms of there's a spirit and that's what perceives and things like that. Yeah.
Exactly. So when Alberto asks Sophie to hit on the table and what she perceived, she
Right.
says it hard. I perceived a substance which is hard, And Berkeley's philosophy was you only perceive its hardness, but not the matter itself.
Correct.
Many things are hard, but they contain different matter. So,
Correct. That is true.
yeah, so
The only
what?
the world that we perceive is through our senses.
Yes,
So, given that we describe the material as we perceive it, not to the full
yes,
extent that it is actually.
yes.
Hmm.
So, what Berkeley, I what I think what Berkeley was proposing was closer to Advaita philosophy, sir. Closer,
Well, I mean,
not in its entirety, but closer. And
it is closer to see. Look, at the end of the day, they come very close to Sankhya at best, but the Advaita is the
Mhm.
next level, basically.
Mm.
You know,
I mean, sir, he says that there is an all-pervading spirit,
correct.
and which he believes it to be God. So
Yes.
that's where I compared to Advaita
Yeah.
philosophy.
The only problem is to say that the physical doesn't exist and only that exists is Advaita.
Yeah, so is Berkeley's philosophy, sir.
No. Because they see Advaita doesn't exist without this concept of Maya. Okay. So the
Mm.
way to tell between Advaita and other theories is or philosophies is what is the basis of saying the material does not exist, right?
Mm. Mm.
And more importantly, the four-state model, the Mandukya proposal. So these are core pillars of Advaita. If you don't have that entire
Okay.
framework, it is just a part of it, right? But how do you deny
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, Sophie hit the table with her hand. There was pain perceived, and there are sense organs. Everybody understands that, right? But
Yes.
exactly to say without the proposal of Maya, Dr. You're absolutely right. The entire Advaita philosophy, it's a pillar that it needs to stand on, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes,
in
sir.
that sense, the Western philosophies catch parts of it, basically, right? Which are very
Yes.
obvious. Everybody can
Mm.
understand that we perceive the world through the senses, so there's probably more to the real world. All that kind of stuff is there. The only thing that they do not take the next step on is connecting it to our experience of the full reality of the human experience, which is the deep sleep state, the dream state, the waking state, and the fourth state. And then saying that when you wake up from the dream, what happens to the dream? So when you wake up from the reality, you will perceive the ultimate reality. So there's a lot to other to unpack.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But I understand there are
Actually,
parallels. Yeah.
mm, yeah, yeah. Just yeah. Please go on, sir.
No, that's it. That's it. Jignasu Garu has come to the panel. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Hello,
సార్
sir. Jignesh here.
గుడ్ మార్నింగ్ సార్ అందరికీ నమస్కారం సార్ ఇప్పుడే
Good
ట్యూన్
morning,
ఇన్
sir.
అయ్యాను
నమస్కారం జిజ్ఞాస్ గారు.
సార్
English
శ్రవణ్
channel,
గారు
sir.
నమస్కారం సార్ అందరికీ ఎస్కే గారు శిక్ష గారు రోషన్ గారు
Sir,
అందరికీ.
namaskaram, sir.
సార్ ఒక
If you
చిన్న ఇది
can speak up in
Sir,
English,
English,
sir.
English. We have a person from we have a panelist from Madhya Pradesh who doesn't understand Telugu, sir.
యా షూర్ సార్ నమస్తే సార్ క్విక్ క్వశ్చన్ శిక్షార్థిని గారు ఇస్ మెన్షనింగ్ సంథింగ్ అబౌట్ బర్క్లీ కెన్ యూ రిపీట్ ఇట్ సార్ ఐ మిస్డ్ ఇట్
So Berkeley proposes that there is something called spirit. That is
బర్క్లీ
all
మీనింగ్
pervading.
లైక్ ఎన్ ఆథర్ బర్క్లీ ఆర్ యూసీ బర్క్లీ
No, not UC Berkeley. He's a philosopher, a British Christian
ఓకే
priest,
ఓకే
Bishop,
bishop.
who
So
is also
basically, he finds
an
that
English
these
philosopher.
physical, the empiricists are pushing too hard against this whole concept of something metaphysical. So he comes up with this idea, basically saying that you perceive things because there is a spirit that enables you to perceive.
ఓ ఐ సీ
Yeah.
Sir, see, you shouldn't start your day in the morning by criticizing or putting the other person down.
Correct.
Sir, there is a huge underpinning and a foundational crisis whereby maybe I shouldn't say it crisis, a foundational attack on Eastern philosophies, particularly Sanatana Dharma and Hinduism, and to break it up. And the foundational core philosophy is take whatever that is good, absorb, and then repackage and reword it in a different way, and then export it back, and then trash the mothership or the source. So this has been going on for centuries, and it falls under breaking India forces, whatever strategy. So the reason why I'm bringing that up, and it is very non-contextual, but as soon as I heard the word Berkeley, the blood boiled. The reason for that is there is so much in the name of neuroscience garb, the so-called cutting-edge research. It is all about understanding the Turiya, dream state, whatever you want to call it. See, ultimately, at the end of the day, these guys are stuck based on their faith, religion, exclusive club philosophy, Western thought. They're stuck in the physical realm. They cannot understand the non-physical realm at all. They are stuck in only Vyavaharika. There is no concept of Paramarthika. So even what you're saying about Berkeley, Sikshardhini Garu is right. It is a very, very, very barely scratching the surface, rudimentary understanding of what Paramarthika is. Also, I mean, centuries of wisdom and everything, it all comes down to human experience, like Vishwagaru was saying, and all of you guys were talking about. See, this human experience, even, see, whenever you have a chance, you listen to some YouTube videos by Carl Sagan, supposed to be one of the most foremost thinkers of cosmology and physics. Even that fellow, no matter what he does, he has to drag himself and live in the Vyavaharika. But he at least gives credit to the other Eastern metaphysical thoughts. It is not possible, sir, because you need to get out of that mindset, and then you should have an experiential transformation to be able to describe that. They can do whatever they want with PET scans and all the latest brain imaging neuroscientific studies. They will not even get close to that, because ultimately, at the end of the day, the core Western philosophies will keep you grounded in Vyavaharika. There is no transformation to Paramarthika which has to happen with transforming your inner self. And as soon as you pick up that black atta book or black cover book, you're grounded in Vyavaharika. It is not possible. Just a few thoughts, sir. Thank you.
Sir, Jignesh Garu. So we also have Dawji, who is again an aspiring teacher and potentially a civil services candidate. Dawji Garu, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Can reveal why I recommended this book because of this reason. What you read in this chapter, a person who read this book or the letters got to know that this is like this, maybe not the reality. Maybe I am a character in her letter. Or the most intriguing or most interesting part is Hilde is also not a real character. Our writer, Sophie's World book writer, wrote her also. So these all comes down to what we are thinking, reality, non-reality, what is reality, how we perceive. Because the character of book perceives like they are real.
Correct.
They you are talking about the mage thing, na? Table.
Correct.
So he thinks table is real, but I and you both like we all know that there is no table, and if there is no Sophie also, and no there is no Hilda also. Okay, so for them that is that is real one. For us, we know that is not real one. Maybe we are also a character of someone's book, or as we say, eternal dream of Lord. So
Correct.
this is just fascinating for me. When I wrote it, like write it, what right now, read it first. My mind was blown. I was like, wow, this is perfect. So this chapter is what I was waiting for, to everybody to come
Yeah,
and
yeah.
read.
This chapter is very unique. You have to read it
So yes,
almost 2 or 3 times to really get to the bottom of okay, what's going on basically.
Sir, what number is this chapter?
There is no number, sir. It's page number 160-ish, basically. It's called
Got it, sir.
yeah. I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's
Sir, Berkeley's chapter starts in 161 page, sir.
161.
okay.
Okay, sir. Got it.
Berkeley is 161, and the next chapter is what Daoji is referring to. This reality and non-reality. There's
yeah, the enlightenment,
exactly
Yeah.
Got
correct.
it.
It's like
this
the
is the
sixth
best
and
chapter. You know,
iceberg.
like whole book is best. The whole book is best. Okay, if they didn't include this thing that the Sophie is not real, nobody would have minded. It would have been a philosophy book. Okay, but
Right,
getting the layers in that, like Sophie is also not real. Elde, we know that she is not real, and his father, who is in army or whatever he is, he is also not real. He is writing letters, he is reading it, and there is a character
correct,
in her letter called
correct,
Sophie, and we are reading, and maybe we are also a character in someone's book, and we are reading about Sophie's world, where in this book there is a girl who have a book in that there is a character named Sophie. So it's just fascinating if you go deep down. The function of reality, what is reality, is just mind blowing questions. As I
correct,
told in the beginning of this book, that there is no right answer. You just improve your questions after some time. After reading philosophy, you just improve your questions, quality of your questions.
correct, 100%. And I think it's whatever the there is also a line that said the father came to the PT meeting, parent teacher PTA meeting, and said
Hmm.
all kids need to be taught this in their school itself. And I agree with it. Right? They may not understand
Yes.
everything in the book, but they need to understand the line of questioning that is being proposed in the book, basically. You know,
Yes. And being the like children is the easiest student to teach about philosophy, because they like innate has questions. They just question everything. After that period of time, like 15, 16, 17 years, or maybe 19, 20, we stop questioning, or maybe like
Dauji,
normal people question about things like,
Dauji, you are breaking too hard.
you're breaking up a little bit, but we get your gist. You're saying that beyond your 20th year, or beyond a certain point of time in life, you stop asking questions, right?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
it's better
yes,
to catch them early. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, now your audio
yeah.
is fine. Please
Oh,
go
yeah,
on,
good.
Dauji.
Yeah,
So this was must like just my point that
yeah,
in early years of our childhood, or maybe teen year also, we question everything. If we remember our childhood, we can see, if we see children now they are all questioning, what is this, what is this, how does this work, how does this work, why this is a red color, why this is pink, why this is this, why clock goes right ways, why not left, everything they question. So they have innate philosophical mind, I would like to say in that way. We just need to give them a path to walk on.
correct, correct. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Oh, yeah, this is wonderful. Any other thoughts, or we can
Yes.
probably move towards closing? Yeah,
Yeah, so a little bit, sir. I wanted to say just before what Jignasu Garu said, I agree with you, sir. The core ideas of our Eastern philosophy had been stolen and being portrayed as Western, and then fed to the world as their own. That's been happening since a very long time. Yeah, I agree with that, sir. That's all.
Yeah, that's okay. We are just trying to see. We can definitely talk about that also. But these sessions we are trying to do without all these attributions.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
is an
I know,
idea.
sir. I know. I just wanted to, I, I wanted to share my agreement with
Yeah, yeah.
Jignasu Garu. That's all.
We
Yeah.
all there's no disagreement at all, right?
Sir, I made a big blunder. I was completely out of context in an
No, no,
explosive
no, it's okay.
emotional burst.
Oh,
I started realizing it as soon as I started listening to each one of you. My sincere apologies, sir.
No, no, no,
But
it's all good. It's all good. So
yeah,
it's okay. It's always good to reinforce our own thought processes, right? In terms of what is Eastern, what is Western, what was taken. All that is there. We are completely on board with that narrative.
sir,
It's just that um, the mistake that people make when they debunk the spiritual traditions of India, nowadays Indians themselves basically, is the mistake we don't want to make while debunking some of these Western theories, right? So
yes,
I, for one, I'm just curious. So are everybody in the panel? Probably Dauji read the book. I keep reading a page once in a while, but this is the session when I really sit down and focus on what is written in the book, right?
yeah. One of these
So
days, I need to force myself to sit down and read this wonderful book, sir.
yeah, it's a great book. The setting is very good. There are moms, there are girls, daughters,
Yes,
there are dads, all kinds of like family characters, but they make the human journey real, basically. At the same time, asking very deep questions suddenly, which I love about this. You know,
yes,
Sir,
they talk about all
there is
kinds
a
of
dog too.
yeah. I mean, there is a Norwegian lifestyle that is in the backdrop, right? Very sort of calm and simple. And suddenly somebody is asking a very deep question, and then they go deep into the philosophy, which is
yes.
very nice. Nice narration.
Amazing observation and comments, sir, Vishwagar. As usual, we all appreciate it on the panel. One more thing in response to what you said, and also Dauji and Sikshagaru were saying, these book reading sessions are so wonderful, sir. I understand the mindset and the philosophy. Don't want to combine too many sessions. These are the only two channels I go to. One is Shravan Garu's Ratsabanda, and then this thing. So there are some wonderful books about reacquiring and taking hold of our own narrative, the Indian narrative. It would be great if we also read selectively certain books in future, some works of Sri Rajiv Malhotra, because all the panelists you guys are doing such a yeoman's job to the spiritual traditions. I think we need to fill in some of the gaps in our knowledge repertoire. And if we read his books, they are eye-opening, sir, Nizanga. Really. So just a thought and a suggestion, but it's something to be debated down the line.
Yeah,
So
totally,
particularly,
totally.
there is a small 100-page book, sir, out of his works. It's called Varna, Jati, and Caste. I think if we read that, we will all be empowered. You don't have to be apologetic about the existing spiritual traditions and how alien caste is. We always had Jati and Varna system and not caste. I know, again, this is out of context, but I wanted to mention this in the tradition of reading books. So,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
will be, I think, extremely helpful.
yeah, yeah.
Sir,
Totally.
yes,
I'll take a
sir.
look. Yeah,
Sir, I have heard of that book as well, sir, and I haven't read it myself, but I'm very interested. But reading it online, maybe the copyright
no, no, you
won't
don't have to show it.
accept
You can
it.
read it. Nobody can strike you.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
which is
is it,
also why
sir?
I don't show the book in the screen on the
Oh,
screen. We just read it.
oh, okay, all right, sir.
Yeah,
Then,
Oh, I
yeah,
didn't think about it, sir. Good point, and good point from Vishwagaru also. So, yeah, the last thing we want to do is crosswires about conflict of interest.
right. No, there won't be any conflict of interest. We can read it. We'll see. Let me take a look at the contents and we'll
we
sort
are
it in
we
the
are already
channel. Yeah.
we are already offending many people in previous. We already had like in previous readings. We mentioned sub government and all types of things. We
Yeah.
don't want to do with same with writers.
Yeah. Don't worry.
No,
We'll make sure.
definitely,
We'll
sir.
make sure.
Agree with that point, sir.
Yeah. Sounds good. So, okay. We'll try to
because
close it.
because if I'm a comedian, okay, they can come and destroy the theater or something like that. But I am in my house. If they came,
Exactly.
I don't want my house to be destroyed.
Yeah. Don't worry about all that. No, just go to, yeah. It's all good.
No, I'm
It's
not
all good.
worried. I'm just joking.
Yeah, I know. So, with that, we'll close today's session.
Sir,
It's a long weekend. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, one small note, sir. So I want to say one thing to Dr. Sai Kiran Garu. Sir, I heard that you had a small debate with some person that spirit existed
We
in
can discuss
stone
later.
somewhere. Yeah, sir.
Later.
I'm just
No, take
I'll
it.
just
We'll do
make
it
my
later.
statement, sir.
Leave it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, leave it. So take it easy. We can have it later.
Yeah. So, all right.
Sure.
Sir, we'll close the session for today. And thanks everybody for joining the panelists. Wonderful panel we have. Right. And I'm very thankful that you guys come and participate. Similarly, to all the viewers, anybody who is going to listen to the stream later, please like and subscribe the channel. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments and I'll try to address them through the week. It's a long weekend in the US, so everybody get some rest for all the hard work through the summer as well as beginning of the year. Happy Labor Day. All right.
Thank you, sir. Everybody. Bye.